You know the scene, right? You've seen it 1,000 times in the movies. The spy gets captured, they're backed into a corner, and just before the bad guys can get any information, they bite down on a hidden pill. And poof, it's over in seconds. It's a classic Hollywood moment, but it makes you wonder, what's really going on there? So what is in that tiny little pill? And how on earth does it work so unbelievably fast? Well, the answer, both in spy thrillers and in some pretty dark moments in real history, is almost always cyanide. But the real science behind this notorious poison, oh, it's way more fascinating and frankly, more complex than the movies ever let on. All right, let's get into it. So first things first, to really get what cyanide is, we have to look past the spy stuff and just break it down chemically. Because it turns out the word cyanide actually covers a whole family of chemicals, not just one specific poison. At its most basic level, cyanide is just any chemical that has a carbon atom stuck to a nitrogen atom. That's it. This little CN group can show up in a bunch of different forms. It can be a gas, like the infamous hydrogen cyanide, or a solid crystal, like the potassium cyanide that's the stuff of those spy movie legends. But here's where it gets really interesting. Just because something has that carbon-nitrogen bond doesn't automatically make it deadly. Not at all. The real danger comes from compounds like potassium cyanide because they easily break apart and release that toxic cyanide ion. On the other hand, you have compounds called nitriles. They have the cyanide group too, but it's locked up tight, so stable that some are actually used in medicines. So the key takeaway here is pretty simple. It's that free-floating cyanide ion that's the real villain of the story. Okay, so how does one tiny little ion do so much damage so incredibly fast? Well, the way it works is just terrifyingly efficient. See, cyanide doesn't mess with your lungs or stop you from breathing. No, it goes deeper. It attacks every single cell in your body, basically all at once. Let's walk through this nightmare scenario step by step. Once it's in your body, cyanide zips everywhere through your bloodstream. It gets inside your cells and invades the mitochondria. You remember those, the powerhouses of the cell. And here's the kill shot. It grabs onto a critical enzyme, cytochrome C oxidase, and just stops it. It's like throwing a wrench into the engine of your cells. All the oxygen is there, floating around in your blood, but your cells are completely blocked from using it to make energy, or ATP. This is a condition called histotoxic hypoxia. It's literally cellular suffocation. And the cells that need the most energy, your heart and your brain, they start to die within minutes. And this is where it gets really grim. Because your brain is being starved of energy, but it isn't immediately switched off. Sources describe an absolutely horrifying experience. The victim can be completely aware of what's happening. They can feel their muscles locking up, feel themselves struggling to breathe, conscious for those final, terrible moments. All right, now that we understand the how, let's talk about the what. What are the signs, and maybe more importantly for us, where does this danger actually exist in the real world, far away from any spies? When we're talking about acute poisoning, the symptoms come on fast and hard. At first, it might just feel like you're suddenly getting sick, a headache, some dizziness, maybe nausea. But it escalates with terrifying speed to seizures, a catastrophic drop in blood pressure, and then, ultimately, cardiac arrest as the heart and brain just run out of fuel. Now, it's also really important to know the difference between that acute, high-dose exposure, the spy pill scenario, and chronic exposure. Being exposed to low levels of cyanide over a long time, maybe from something like improperly prepared cassava root, won't kill you suddenly, but it can cause absolutely devastating long-term health issues, like permanent nerve damage and even paralysis. So where is the single biggest risk of cyanide exposure for most of us? It's not spies, it's not assassins, it's fire. And this number is it's staggering. An estimated 35% of people who die in fires have toxic, lethal levels of cyanide in their blood, all from inhaling the smoke. And when you look at this list, you can see why. Cyanide gas is released when so many common household materials burn: plastics, rubber, even natural fibers like wool and silk. It's also a big deal in industrial work like mining and metal plating. And yeah, it's even found in nature in things like bitter almonds, apple seeds, and, yep, even tobacco smoke. Because it's so lethal, cyanide has unfortunately earned its place in some of the absolute darkest moments of human history. It was the active ingredient in Zyklon B, the agent used in Nazi extermination camps. It was the poison used in the horrific Jonestown massacre. And it created nationwide panic during the Tylenol murders, an event that literally changed the way we package all of our medicine. Its legacy is, without a doubt, a chilling one. But here's the thing. As awful and as fast as cyanide poisoning is, it doesn't have to be a death sentence. Not automatically. Modern medicine has actually developed an incredible set of tools to fight back. But it's a race against time. Action has to be taken, and it has to be taken immediately. Okay, so if you ever suspect someone has been exposed, the first aid steps are straightforward but absolutely critical. First, get to fresh air immediately. Second, get any contaminated clothing off, and I mean right away. Third, wash the skin thoroughly with soap and water. But the most important step of all, get professional medical help. Call emergency services without a moment's hesitation. When the paramedics get there, the very first thing they're going to do is give the person 100% high-flow oxygen. Now, this doesn't actually stop the poison, but what it does is flood the blood with so much oxygen that it helps support the body's tissues and basically buys precious, life-saving time for the real antidotes to get to work. And once a patient is in the hospital, doctors have 3 main types of antidotes, and the way they work is just so cool. First, you have nitrites. They create a kind of decoy in your blood that the cyanide would rather bind to, which frees up that critical enzyme in your cells. Then there's sodium thiosulfate. This stuff basically supercharges your body's own natural detoxification system to convert cyanide into a harmless chemical you can just get rid of. And finally, there's hydroxocobalamin, which is a form of vitamin B12. It literally just grabs onto the cyanide ion and in the process turns it into, well, another harmless form of vitamin B12. Absolutely amazing. So we end up back where we started. Cyanide is so much more than a spy's secret weapon. It's this incredibly simple little molecule that shows us a really profound truth about chemistry. Context is everything. The very same atoms, carbon and nitrogen, that are locked up safely in life-saving drugs can, in a slightly different arrangement, become one of the most famously fast poisons we've ever known. It's a pretty powerful reminder of the razor-thin chemical edge that life itself is built on.